Welcome to the I Can Fly podcast. Today, we are so excited to share with you our conversation with Rickie Fowler. Rickie is not only one of the most authentic guys on tour, but he's truly a great friend to both Morgan and I. Rickie dove into his thoughts on the state of the game today, and also how he would raise someone that was falling in love with the game today and had a dream of making the PGA Tour just like him. Rickie touched on his thoughts on his own spirituality and how that helped him get through the low points in his career over the last couple of years, and frankly reach new heights just this past year with his championship at the Rocket Mortgage Classic. We're so excited for having you here. We appreciate your time. Please enjoy this conversation with Rickie Fowler. I was, before we were planning to start this, I was going through my phone because I've been a diehard Rickie Fowler fan since I was a kid. And I went all the way back to 2010, your first Memorial.
Yep.
And I'll never forget walking with you the first 2 days because you were on the cover of Golf Digest earlier in the year and had a pretty big splash at that point. But, you know, the whole scene really hadn't come together yet. And the first two rounds I walked with you, and I think you were paired with, I think it was Kevin Sutherland.
Okay.
Somebody, I don't remember who exactly it was, but not many people were out. And, you know, you played incredibly well, ended up finishing runner-up. And a year later, came back, and I was not the only one following the group at that point. And I think it's been pretty much a rocket ship ascent ever since.
Yeah, that was, I remember it was a fun year because I had Coach Dar caddy for me.
Oh, shit.
That's right. Yeah,
It's like really the only time, you know, because Joe was on my bag from the start up until, you know, last year, and then Rick's been on my bag for a little over a year now. There's only been one tournament where I didn't have like my normal caddy, but it worked it out because that was my rookie year. So I told Joe like, hey, I'd love for Coach Dar to be able to caddy. Obviously, Ohio guy.
He was at Ohio State.
He was the Ohio State
No.
coach then, wasn't he?
Not yet.
Okay.
At least I don't think so. But obviously, big Ohio guy, you know, loves Ohio State. He went to Kent State, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it just was all kind of like, thought it'd be cool and fun. And yeah, we were leading after 54 holes. It's a good week by
nice.
Don on the bag.
I've had some good rounds with Donnie too,
Yeah.
man. He used to freaking caddy for me and all the,
Yeah.
like, well, I guess not caddy in college events, but walk.
Just being
with
around, yeah.
Sometimes, yeah.
But yeah, it just shows you like when you have people you enjoy being around, like caddies do make a difference, but a lot of it too is someone who makes you like enjoy the time.
Yeah, that frame of mind, that like ease,
Yeah.
you know. Well, shit, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah. Here we are.
This is cool. I was looking forward to this just to, you know, catch up. It's been a while and reminisce about some OK State stuff, junior things, golf, life, family.
Yeah, we go way back.
Yeah, man. What's where did we first meet? I don't even remember. Probably like a Jones Cup or something like that.
Either that or maybe
Frederica?
like a IJGT event.
AJDA.
My most vivid memory is getting beat in the finals at the
Polo.
Polo.
Yep.
Because I had just beat, you know, Hoff was up there as one of the top juniors at the time, and I was as well. Peter was as well, and kind of the number one was always Philip Francis.
Mm-hmm.
And I beat Philip by thinking maybe it was the quarters. Great match, and then I hurt Pete a little bit because I birdied the first seven on him.
Yes, I remember that. It was something
Holy
insane.
cow.
Yep.
Yeah, I think he still holds that against me to this day. And then I got Hoff in the finals, and yeah, I got beat, but it was just cool that literally faced like the other three guys that were the top juniors.
Yeah.
Which a lot of times that doesn't happen in match play.
Sure.
You know, sometimes, you know, guys get knocked out, but those were like the perfect three matchups. unfortunately I came up one short and Hoff took home the title. But yeah, I mean, we go way all back to junior golf.
The detour was crushing back then. That putter, I still have.
Yeah.
Still contemplate bringing it out.
It made some appearances in college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on tour, actually.
Yeah.
Were you guys the same year coming into Oklahoma State?
He was one ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we had 1 year together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good times. So let's just work, I guess, chronologically.
Yeah.
You were born in Cali and Marietta, right?
Yeah, good old Marietta. It's crazy to think now that I've almost been in Florida as long as I was in California.
Crazy.
Yeah, born and raised in Marietta, which at the time was a pretty small town. I remember, every town has kind of their like population signs, and I remember going by those as a kid and seeing like 20,000, and we weren't like a standalone town. There was other cities that kind of made up what they called like the Inland Empire, kind of the valley that we lived in. But Marietta on its own, I remember seeing like 20,000 people. And going back over the years, I've seen it in the last few years, and Marietta's, I don't know, somewhere around 130,000.
No way.
So, yeah, it used to be kind of a small town vibe, and things change. But yeah, grew up, it was kind of small town growing up. Golf and riding dirt bikes, and that was, it's how we grew up.
Was the house that I went to and stayed at for Q school where you grew up?
So I grew up, we moved there when I was like 8, I think. So before that, we lived right across the street from Bear Creek.
Oh, yeah.
A little like frack house development. So, until I was about 7 or 8, we lived there, and then moved up the hill to La Cresta. So, yeah, La Cresta was what you saw. That was pretty much all my childhood, building jumps, bicycles, going riding in the hills. We had 5 acres, so I could mess around, hit balls in the yard, or there's kind of empty lots next to us, so I could just hit balls wherever, kind of.
Yeah, it's a cool spot.
Yeah,
just
nice.
like dirt bike jumps and mountain bike jumps. Like I ended up breaking my hand on one of them. Yeah.
While at Q school?
Yeah.
I wasn't there, so.
Yeah. It wasn't his fault.
God, there's no liability hill.
No.
Yeah.
Nope. Yeah, it was fun.
What first came? Was it first dirt biking, motocross, or golf?
It was kind of all together around similar times. Like, my grandpa took me to the driving range when I was probably right around 2. I was off training wheels probably right around there, right at 2, and I was on a dirt bike shortly after that, 2.5 or 3. So really all those kind of started around the same time, but golf was always my number one thing. Like, I'm not sure why, because you give kids a bicycle or a dirt bike, and that's pretty fun, something cool to be able to do and go rip around. But I'm not sure why. I mean, I obviously love golf. You guys love golf, but as a kid, it's hard to explain why that was the thing that just was like, this is it.
What was your favorite dirt bike you had?
Favorite, probably my 110. Pit bikes became a big thing kind of when I was about, I don't know, 13, 14, 15. So everyone rode. At that time, I would have been on like super minis onto like 125s before things went over to 4-strokes. And because like the last bike I really spent time on would have been a 250F right when things went over to 4-strokes. But the
Honda.
So alongside that, though, a lot of people would have pit bikes and mess around and have fun. And that was something I was better at that. My buddies that were, trying to ride and go ride professionally, or like top amateurs and stuff, I couldn't hang with them on big bikes on the track. They were faster than me. There was no denying that. But when it came to pit bikes, I could hang and throw down with just about anyone.
That's cool.
I don't know if it was size or what, but yeah, I had a fun 110. 110s came stock. They were 3 gears and you'd rip around. Had a little bit of work done to it. There was a 138 kit, which makes it a little faster. We put a 4th gear in it and had a clutch.
Ooh,
so
nice.
Reacted a little bit more of like a normal bike, and yeah, just used to rip that around and have some fun on it.
That's awesome. Were any of your buddies that you like grew up riding with like pro now that are sponsored?
Yeah, I had a few guys. There's a few guys that rode professionally for a little bit. The guys that I grew up riding with, none of them are doing it anymore professionally.
Because we're old now.
Basically, the career of professional motocross, like supercross and outdoors, it's pretty short, and it's definitely on the younger side. Mm-hmm. I'm 35 now, so there's very few guys that make it into their mid 30s and still competing at that level. You're seeing guys come out, late teens, peaking in the kind of early to mid 20s. But now you've got guys coming out even younger, like Jet Lawrence, one of the top riders right now. And yeah, it's hard to know when he's going to peak, but it just seems like the age keeps getting younger and younger. So yeah, with that sport, your body just gets beat up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a matter of if, it's it's when. You're gonna crash, especially when you're going that fast and pushing the limit. Luckily for us with golf, yeah, we can get injured, but we hit it in the water, nothing's really gonna happen.
Yeah. Speaking of golf and crossing over and pushing the limit, is there anything that crossed over into golf that helped you with golf from motocross?
I think some of the mental side, although over the years that evolves, and you learn as you go too. But I think early on, I feel like you can attest, I was always pretty quick, kind of reacted to things, didn't think a whole lot, and stayed fairly aggressive. And I'd kind of attribute a little bit of that to riding, because being on a dirt bike, there's not much thinking that goes into it.
Right. No fear.
Yeah, you're reacting to the situation, how the track changes, or if you're out free riding in the hills. Yeah, you kind of see and do and react to what's going on. The moment you start thinking, you're on the ground.
Yeah. That's a lesson.
So a little bit of that, I think, just kind of like seeing, this is the shot, this is what I got to do, and go do it. Luckily, like we talked about, the consequences, you can deal with them. You crash versus hit one in the water, it's a little different.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, I remember hearing, just from when you were growing up through the game and coming into stardom, there was a time, I think, where you had like a pretty serious injury in motocross when you were growing up, and then you decided to go just all into golf. Is that right?
Yeah, because like I said earlier, like golf was always my number one. That was always my main focus. But I remember, I think it was right before, it was my freshman year of high school. Our golf season out in California would be in the spring. So like second semester of freshman year. Yeah. And I actually had a crash on my pit bike. It wasn't my fault, but ran into someone when we were out in the desert. We kind of had a little track set up by camp, and there was a blind jump, and someone was coming the other way. Oh. And they were giving one of their kids a ride on the front of their bike, and so there's a little kid sitting in front, and so I came up, and I was on the 110, so it wasn't like crazy fast or anything, but I had it laid over, and I just remember in the air seeing them come up, and so I ditched the bike.
Oh shit.
Luckily they were all good. You just see the kid there. It's
right.
It's no thinking. It's react. And I broke my foot in 3 spots. Blew up my left knee. Luckily nothing structurally was bad there, but ended up being in a boot for 6 weeks or 2 months, letting that heal. Minor for what dirt bike injuries could be. But yeah, that at that time it was like, all right, if I want to take golf seriously, I can't really be riding and putting myself at risk, because you're gonna make mistakes, but sometimes it's someone else, especially when you start talking about, like, riding, bikes on the street, whether it's like a crotch rocket or whatever it might be. That's just a whole nother story. It's very dangerous. But yeah, it was just that time where it was like, okay, if I want to take golf seriously and want to go somewhere like Oklahoma State and play professionally, like, I can't really be taking this kind of risk.
That's true. It's true. Speaking junior golf, and it gets serious, like when you start looking at committing to colleges, and it's at that time in my life, I knew it was just so important to me, and just the most important thing, especially talking to college coaches and like learning where your friends are going to go and where you're going to commit. And it gets serious. And that's like when I started focusing on, like, all right, this is my career, and things had to, like, I used to love to ski, and I haven't done that since I was in college or before then.
It's even crazy to, like, look at now versus then, because for us, like, obviously your parents are there and supporters, but they're not necessarily pushing you, but like, you always wanted to play, I always wanted to play, and our parents were there to support us, and ultimately, like, it was our decision to play or practice or ultimately want to go to college. And it's crazy to see how things have definitely changed, where that process of whether it's talking about going to college or playing professional golf, it's like keeps getting younger and younger, like parents getting more and more involved. I remember, like, the Junior Golf Association I grew up playing, parents weren't allowed on the course with the kids.
Amazing. I wish that was the case.
And so they started at 5. Look, my mom was able, it was, long story short, Joe, who caddied for me, his parents ran the Junior Golf Association.
Oh, no way.
So it started at 5. I wanted to play so bad. My mom somehow persuaded them to let me play at 4.5. And for that age group, it was 6 holes from the 150-yard markers. And there was a scorekeeper, but it couldn't be a parent of a kid in the group. So, like, my mom could go scorekeep for your group that's going out at a different time. But it was literally like, all right, the 3 of us and another parent go with us, and you go figure it out. And so nowadays you see all these junior events starting at a young age, through high school and stuff, and parents are caddying, and I just feel like, I don't know if it's the right way. I feel like there's so much that I learned and you learned growing up from, you kind of figure it out on your own instead of someone telling you what to do or how to do it.
Yeah, I've told Morgan this a bunch, actually, this past year, because I didn't play tournaments for a couple of years after school, and this year got back into playing some events and played just state am and mid-am, but it was the first year where I didn't work with somebody at all times. And I just...
A coach?
Yeah, I didn't have a coach, or I wasn't really, actively sending swing videos or really analyzing it. And I honestly got more confidence in my golf game over the past year from coaching myself through those experiences, and really being significantly more focused around the shape of the shot and what's this feel like to create this outcome. And I was just relating to that as you were talking about it, because I definitely became overly dependent on outside, opinions and comments on whatever it was that I was working on. And that was something I wanted to actually ask you about. I thought we'd get to it later on, but if you were raising someone today that was getting into the game of golf and was, a young kid, boy or girl, that was starting to have a passion for it, how would you want to be breeding them into becoming a competitive golfer at that level?
Well, I feel like a kid's going to want it or not.
Yeah.
And the more you have to push, it's ultimately going to end at some point. Whether they end up making it and, get to a point where, I just don't want this anymore. So I don't think there's no perfect or right way, but I do think there's ways to at least set up for success. The biggest thing is not, pushing them to do anything. Make it fun. I still remember growing up on the driving range that I grew up at was just putting contests, chipping contests with buddies, and having close to the pin contests with my dad and my grandpa, and any way you could create some sort of competition, whoever you're around, and just make it fun. Especially young. Like, I used to work with my coach, who I worked with when I started up until 2011 when he passed away. Old school guy. I'd hit balls with him once a week. But a big part of that was he was big on me not relying on him, like you talked about.
Yeah.
Because when you get out there in situations and tournaments, and if you always have someone that's at your side and telling you maybe what you did wrong or do this, you got to figure it out on your own. Yeah. It's not like you can call up your coach, hey, I just did this, what should I do? Right. So yeah, not overworking with someone, spending too much time, because at the end of the day, like, whether it's junior golf and ultimately, out on tour, being able to figure it out on your own and know kind of how to get through those times, that's kind of how it works. So I guess back to you asking the perfect way to do it. There's no right way to do it. I think the biggest thing is stay out of the way, let them have fun.
Nice.
That's what was so great about Oklahoma State, though, is because Coach McGraw was like, all right, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
If you guys don't perform, maybe I'll intervene.
Yeah.
But regardless, like, go out. There's no rules. Like, you guys all, I know that you want to be on the PGA Tour, want to be some of the best in the world. And that was so cool, I thought.
Mm-hmm. And then having Bratton and Dar, guys that played, especially Alan playing, professional golf tour and over in Asia and stuff, but like, they were there if we needed them. Yeah. And, they were, McGraw and both Alan and Donnie were there if, we weren't playing well. It's like, okay, there's a few things we need to do. But other than that, it was like, okay, we have qualifying on Thursday and Friday.
Yeah.
Show up for a workout, go to class, make sure you're staying up with all your work. Mm-hmm. Other than that, we'll see you at qualifying.
Yeah. It's pretty awesome. I loved it. Yeah, I was going to talk about Walker Cup before. Was that while we were in college? I guess
that was my last event.
2009.
You and Pete were going back.
2009, yeah. Wow, that's true. Man, that was so much fun. We had a crazy team there too.
Because I played 07 Walker Cup, which was right before I started my freshman year. And the whole reason I stayed amateur through the summer was to be able to play Walker Cup again.
Yeah.
Because 07 was great, and I wanted to play home in the States. Mm-hmm. And then especially knowing that, like you and Pete were basically going to be on the team. Yeah. I wasn't going to pass that up because, and looking back now, I wouldn't have wanted to change that.
Yeah.
Now, if I wouldn't have gotten my card through Q school and struggled, and you might think differently, but with how things went, I mean, you can't get back those years. You can't get back amateur golf. So to be able to have that summer and then be able to go play the Walker Cup with you guys is like the perfect way to go out.
Yeah, it was such a memorable experience with Buddy Marucci as the captain, and man, I'll still never forget that picture that we have. I think at one of our foundation events, some guy painted it of us three, you, me, Peter, in an American flag at the end on the 18th green at Marion, and just special times. Like, such a great group of guys. Marion is actually one of my favorite courses in the world. Super underrated, I feel like. And then, just we were so lucky to have such a great team at Oklahoma State. The guys and that were all with us, like, it was such a variety
Oh, it was, yeah. Big variety. Where do you start?
Yeah, man. We're talking about John McClain, Michael Miller, Brad Gale. I saw Brad Gale at Ohoopee the other day. Yeah, because he's working with Gil Hans, I think, a little bit, designing courses now. And yeah, we had lunch, and I hadn't seen him in years, and that was cool. And
It's hard to play golf with Brad now because he's talking about like these different design features.
Yeah.
Like, dude, just say there's a bunker that's shaped like this at the left side of the green.
yeah,
Like, you don't have to get into all these architectural terms. Like,
make him feel good.
yeah.
That's awesome. What do you have any memories from the Walker Cup that stand out?
I mean, that picture with the three of us, because we all three of us had a damn good 2 days. I believe. Did you have a match?
We were all undefeated.
Yeah. Was it
I
you
think
or Pete that had halved a match?
I don't remember.
It was you or Pete that halved a match.
Yeah.
I remember I went 4-0.
Yeah.
Not to toot my own horn. And then one of you guys went 4-0 as well. And then it was like a 3-0-1.
Yeah, I think Peter went 4-0.
Okay.
And then I probably have.
Man, you really let us down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Terrible.
No, but like that being one, I played with Bud in both my ultimate shot matches.
Nice.
And we just gelled and vibed and played some really good golf. I don't think we fulfilled our ultimate goal, which we wanted to try and win a match before crossing the road.
Nice.
We didn't quite get there.
The road was what, 13 or
What is it?
12 or something? It was an ambitious goal.
Yeah, it's either 12 or 13. It's a high goal.
Yeah. I love it though.
But no, it's literally, like I said, it's a week or part of your life that you can't get back if you decide to, take that next step. So for me, being able to play 07 and 09, like for kids that are, in high school and college and ultimately wanting to play professional golf, it's like, if you have a chance to play the Walker Cup, play it.
Yeah. For your country.
Yeah. Obviously for your country.
Not just for your country.
Yeah. But it's like,
for the experience.
You'll take so much more from it down the road, that you won't really fully grasp until later in your life.
Agreed. Completely. How about Oklahoma State? I just have written down here stories.
Where do you want to start there? I don't have any like too crazy of stories on myself. I mean, as you know, I think I drank twice in college, and there's probably one that you remember pretty well. I used to drive everyone.
Yeah, you had the Evo, right? Or before that?
Well, I had the Evo, and then I would just
the beater.
Mark had his Yukon. And so a lot of times I'd just drive that because we could fit a bunch of people.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously there's so many different memories, but go to like driving, being able to, Mark would be there in the passenger seat, blaring music as loud as he could.
Yeah.
And, I'm obviously the only sober one, making sure everyone's getting from point A to point B and the next stop and home eventually. I remember like used to help, drive some of the basketball or football guys. I remember one of the guys.
That's right.
Text or called me. It wasn't too late. It was like 1:30. We had just gotten back. I was in bed. He's like, "Hey man, can you take me to make some McDonald's?" So of course I was like, well, I don't want him finding another way. I was like, I got you.
Nice.
So went got him some McDonald's.
The Uber before they had them on campus.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
I was Uber for the golf team.
Nice.
And some of the others, but no, I wish I had. Well, I got to go back and spend time with you guys afterwards. I got to, get back as much as I could, but it would have been cool to be able to, be there, 3 or 4 years. I wouldn't change it, but it was really cool to still be able to go back afterwards. And I might have made up for the driving at other times when I got back.
Right.
One of the stories, speaking of figuring it out, of that, continuing that theme, one of the stories when people ask me about you and like my time at Oklahoma State is we would go out often and not have rangefinders and go out and like play Carson Creek, which was hard as balls, like, and like just play without a rangefinder. At that time, it was just awesome to get our feel down and have one-on-one battles, and like it was just a nice way to really figure it out and just be ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously knew the course pretty well, so it wasn't like we were playing blind.
Right.
But typically it could be pretty windy, so it was more like hitting shots, kind of visualizing like, okay, we'll do this. And yeah, I remember I used to play as much as I could. I remember, I think...
Yeah, you were a big player.
I think there was of days I wanted to play, because there was obviously times where we traveled and whatnot, but I think there was only 2 days in the 2 years when I was there that like I absolutely couldn't play.
Snow or ice or something.
Yeah, I mean, I'd go out when it was in the high 20s.
Yeah.
Greens would be frozen. But yeah, it was, sometimes I'd be the only one out there. Sometimes I'd convince some of these guys to come out.
Were you there that day when it was so windy we were in the barn and teeing up 3 woods and hitting it over the barn behind us?
I don't know if I was out there.
It was like the tees on the mat where you tee it up.
Yeah,
you just go like that, and it goes over the. It was so windy, dude. That's where I learned to play in the wind. Obviously, it was insane.
Now you get some fun days out there.
Insane.
Or like, I remember some of the qualifyings when we'd be out at like Stillwater Country Club. You didn't want to be the first one hitting into the first green. Par 5, but if it was cold, a lot of times it was out of the north, so it was into the wind, and you'd have some sort of short iron or a wedge. And I remember there was at least a few times where, I mean, the greens are frozen, but you wouldn't quite know until the first one hit.
Right.
And whoever was hitting first, you just see ya.
Yep. Man, some hard qualifiers.
Yeah.
I missed the first qualifier, that like my first event for freshman year. I'll never forget. I was so pissed.
Yeah.
And then obviously had a good rest of the year, but man, yeah, you and Peter, the reason why I went to Oklahoma State is because of you and Peter, because I knew you guys were better than me, and I wanted to surround myself with better players to be able to ultimately, ideally,
that's where you learn.
Yeah. But yeah, it was such a great experience, and met so many awesome people and had a lot of fun stories. Kevin Tway, Taylor Gooch, obviously now crushing it on live over there.
Yeah. Gooch and I never crossed at school. He caddied for me at the Pub Links. I can't remember which year it was, but it was down in Norman, Jimmy Austin.
Oh yeah.
So I got to know Gooch prior to him being at school, and then, like I said, we didn't cross over, but really anyone that goes to Oklahoma State, whether you cross over or not, like you're part of the family.
Yeah.
I still remember, I mean, I used to have to wake Kev up not every morning, Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Yeah, for workouts.
Especially my first 6 months at school, I didn't have a car. So he was my ride. So it was myself, John McClain, and Kev that lived together. And workouts were what, 6:30?
6 maybe even? Yeah.
So either one. I mean, we were getting up somewhere, I mean, we're guys, 20, maybe 30 minutes.
5:51.
Yeah, right.
I'd be more the 30 minutes before. Yeah. Get up, get sorted, and I'd open John's door. We called him Worm. Make sure he was half awake. He, a lot of times, like, and kind of rolling out of bed.
Yeah.
And then go to Kev's door. I'd have to go in there and, like, I'd go and, like, rub his head for, like, 5 minutes. Just had to, like,
I love Kevin.
Soft wake up and make sure he'd eventually kind of roll out of bed, because that was my ride. If he didn't get up, then we had some bad punishment workouts if you were late.
Oh yeah, I was telling Jug about that the other day.
Yeah, you were.
We were
running.
We were on a run yesterday.
Yes.
Yeah, yesterday morning we went running. It was blowing 100 and it was raining and like couldn't even open our eyes. We
Dude,
did.
I played in it.
Oh yeah,
Right.
you were at the club.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we went for a run and I was like, oh man, in college we used to have punishments where we had to run the front 9 and do the Indian run, where like the person in the back have to go to the front for the whole 9 holes, and it was brutal because it was hilly. The Carson Creek.
I remember the main one was Gauntlet,
The Gauntlet. Yeah.
Stairmaster.
Stair stepper on the hardest level.
It would typically be between, depending on the punishment, like 30 minutes to an hour.
Yeah. Didn't Trent Leon shit himself? Yeah, he did.
I mean, I wouldn't, but
With Holder watching, I think. And then I think what happened was like Holder's like, you can't finish this or something. And then he didn't. He's like, you know what? I'm not gonna finish it. Like, and then the next day he got.
We'll have to get Trent on here to verify. Tell the real story.
We should.
Yeah.
And then I think the next day he came back and did it again and finished and crushed it.
Yeah. No, there was plenty of story. There was our workouts were not easy.
No.
Yeah, we got pushed pretty good from, I mean, running hundreds together. And not that running hundreds are necessarily like hard, but everyone had to make it, and so like 16, it was around 16 seconds.
Yeah, I was gonna say 13 to 16, something like that.
I think 16 was we always tried to make it in about 13, so we weren't pushing it.
Right.
But I think it was like 16 seconds, and everyone on the team had to make it under that. And we can't remember how many we would do. Probably like,
It's like 10.
yeah, I was gonna say like 10, 12, somewhere in there.
Yeah. And then stadiums.
I always tried to just get those done. I think it would usually be like, I want to say like maybe, probably somewhere around the same, 10, 12. But I always try to just get those done as fast as possible.
Yeah.
Me and Michael Miller, Old Mills.
Amazing. Just like a bunny.
What do you guys think made and continues to make Oklahoma State such an incredible golf powerhouse? I mean, is it the combination of legacy and the history of players that have gone there and built this tradition? And then secondarily to that, and I asked that to both you guys really, but for a kid that's growing up right now in junior golf and starting to consider, what university to go to, or I guess frankly that probably goes across other sports too. What are the most important things you guys look back on in your decision and saying, it sounds like one of them was having competition that was better than you, that was going to challenge you. But so I guess a two-part question. One, what's made Oklahoma State so great and continue to be at that level? And then secondarily, what's so important in choosing that, what school to go to for you?
I think there's a lot of factors. Some of the big ones, who's there, who's gonna be there. Like Hoff was saying, being around players that are as good, maybe not as good, but want to be better than you, guys that are better that you want to try and catch. So ultimately continuing to push each other. I'd say unfortunately the last couple of years they haven't been as good or up to the standard that we hold for Oklahoma State golf, but and you can chime in whenever too. I'd say another special thing is golf at Oklahoma State is very different than I feel like golf at a lot of other universities. It's the football
or not quite, but
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people that support Oklahoma State golf.
Yeah.
We've helped the football program do some things that they've wanted to do, whether it's with the stadium or other stuff. And a lot of our donors, going back to one of the main, Boone Pickens, he came through golf, and that was because of Coach Holder. Coach Holder played for Labor and Harris back in the day, and he took over the coaching job at a young age. But he was a big part of really developing Oklahoma State into what it was then and is, and continuing to be. So he's kind of the Labor and Harris kind of laid the groundwork, and Holder took it from there. But I think it's hard to really understand how big it is and how much people, I guess, think of it. Like to Hoff's point, it's like it's not just golf. Like it's big.
It's Oklahoma State. Like if you're either an alumni or a fan, like you bleed orange, but not only just like the football or the basketball, like golf is like there as well, which I don't think in other schools it's like that. Like there's not many. I mean, you can name a handful probably, but I think like, yeah, it's the legacy, but also like the thing that Coach McGraw kind of, I wouldn't say sold me on, but changed my perspective on was when I went to my visit, he drove me around in his car on the course because we couldn't get a golf cart out because it was covered in like a few inches of snow. So we went down like the cart paths, and he's like, I'm really sorry that like we have to do this, but I'm going to tell you something about why I think you should come here, even though like it's covered in snow right now. I was like, what's that? He's like, I know you're looking at schools in Florida and California, but those two places pretty much have perfect weather all the time, and I can guarantee you're not going to be playing in perfect weather all the time on the PGA Tour. I was like, oh, damn, like, you're right. I want to be really prepared to be the best on the PGA Tour, and, like, I'd rather get good in shitty weather or inconsistent weather with the best players and the best facilities at the time. Now they're redoing Carson Creek at the moment to make it amazing again. I think Carson was the beginning of amazing golf facilities around the country.
Yeah, we had 20 plus years old at the time. Yeah, like you said, that was the pinnacle.
Yeah.
And then other places have caught up, and now, you know, Holder being back kind of away from AD and running the revamp of Karsten wants to bring that back to number one.
Yeah.
But I think that's a big point that I had thought of. But yeah, the imperfect weather is kind of what you want if you want to prepare yourself. And the other to that is it's our golf course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the golf team owns the golf course. Yeah. And like no one else plays it really. You can be a member, but I think there are very few members to play it publicly or with a guest. It was like $500 or something.
Semi-private.
Yeah.
But yeah, pretty minimal play. I mean, the busiest days would be around, you know, game day and stuff like that. But I think that's obviously a huge key is that it's our golf course. And I'm pretty sure that we're the only ones. I mean, there's universities that own courses and stuff like that. I don't think there's another golf team that can say that they actually own theirs.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome. What about turning pro with Coach Holder and McGraw? Like, what was their advice to you? Was there anything that they said that might have hindered you from making a decision to turn pro, or like?
No, not really. I mean, you know, Coach Holder was AD at the time, and you know he was around, but obviously he also, I think, gave coaches and us our space to do, you know, what we wanted, and we'd always see him he was always in the gym before us in the mornings, so he was always there. If we'd come back and played good at the tournament, say, well done, boys. And if we didn't play well, or if it was second or anything behind that, well, what happened?
In your face.
So he kept us in check, but no, I was Holder. He made sure I was ready to go. He kind of he'd push me to say, like, you know, I think you should stay. And, you know, I never took it as he didn't think I was ready or vice versa. I think it was, to me, in a way, him making sure that I was 100% committed to, like, this is what I want to do.
Almost testing you a little.
Yeah. And then McGraw and Bratton and Dar, I feel like they were very good, like we talked about earlier, not trying to, like, get in your way at all. They were there to help. So they never tried to steer me away from it or, you know, change my mind or anything like that. They were always very supportive. But at the same time, I know they would be some of the first ones to jump in if they thought I was making the wrong or bad decision.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I had the same thing when I turned pro from them. It's just support and a little testing from Holder.
Here I mean, I'd love to go back with some of the players that were before us that played for Holder.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've heard some of the stories over the years of like bag carry, or like, well, there were some. I mean, some of the qualifyings they would do would be bag carry. I know we did that, I think, a couple times. If you lost a hole, you had to carry the other guy's bag.
Nice.
I remember hearing a story. One of the punishments was one guy had to hold his bag above his head and run around the range until he said stop. I'm not sure if it would be stuff that would necessarily fly in today's day and age, which is a little bit unfortunate because, to me, similar to whether it's parents caddying or being that involved, it's like you need to go figure it out on your own. And if you mess up, you pay for your mistake, and you probably won't do it again because you know what the consequences are. You're not being, babied or spoon-fed. It's like, hey, you're going to earn it. And so if you come to Oklahoma State, we're going to basically make or break you. If you want it that bad, we're going to get you ready for the next step.
Yeah. It's pretty special.
Yeah.
What would you say the biggest thing you learned at Oklahoma State to like transition on the tour?
I think a big part, there's so many intangibles from Oklahoma State, but I think one of the big things for me was kind of the time management and learning how to juggle everything. The stages in life, you always end up with just more on your plate. But having, whether it's think about the travel schedule and qualifying and workouts and staying up with school. And I always did really good in school, partly because I made sure I took care of that, and made sure that when I went to go play that I didn't have to worry about those things.
And we had Nikki.
Well, yeah. Between Nikki and Amy and
our guidance counselor.
We had Nikki, some others had Amy and some of the other ladies there. But yes, without the AC and our guidance counselors, it would have been
they kept us in check.
Harder.
That was a sick thing about Oklahoma State. Sorry to interrupt, but like the academic center for all the athletes, like you go in at a certain time, you do your homework there, and then like you're free. You do whatever you want after. So it's like your home is your home. You get to detox and relax from whatever you're doing, like playing soccer or football, golf. And then you do your homework in this one designated spot. Like that's what helped me about.
Well, a lot of times
management.
we would even go there after dinner. Yeah. Just because like, one, you didn't really want to be like, you wanted to go somewhere that was like dedicated to, all right, I'm going here to work, get my stuff done. And I feel like, we had those, like we went to Karsten to do what we needed to do. Yeah. But yeah, I'd say going back to like, that was probably one of the big things for me, which isn't just something at Oklahoma State. That was just part of that step of college and playing college golf. Like I said, there's so many other intangibles from Oklahoma State, but for me personally, that was a big thing, kind of preparing me for having more stuff on my plate after college.
So then you guys play the Walker Cup together in 2009, and I was putting this together as you guys were talking about it, but then you play the Ryder Cup in 2010, right? And so, in that brief period of time, like we said, after the Memorial, the rocket ship took off. And honestly, as I'm sitting here kind of chuckling over it, I mean, how fun was it being Rickie Fowler in those first early couple of years taking off?
It was awesome. I was fortunate enough from going from Walker Cup 2009. I played, at the time, I believe it was nationwide. I played 2 nationwide events because the tour was, I think, going through like their playoffs and stuff. So just wanted to play to get ready for the fall series. I got to play 3 events. Unfortunately, there was one in there that got rained out, but I made enough money to get the final stage. Ended up getting through Q school. But yeah, to go from Walker Cup and then a year later on a Ryder Cup team, I didn't make it off of points, but being able to just be in a position to be considered for the team, that was special alone. But I still remember, I was in a hotel room with my dad was out that week, and the calls were coming in that night, so we were hanging, and I remember getting that call from Corey, and yeah, it's hard to describe going from Walker Cup to Ryder Cup. You see someone now like Ludwig going from playing a few months and on a Ryder Cup team. I mean, that obviously tops me by far, but it was a special ride early to, like I said, be fortunate enough to play well when I needed to kind of give myself a solid foundation, because there's so many guys. I mean, as you know, seeing our friends that turn pro and, struggle just to get decent status somewhere, whether that's Korn Ferry or even, playing like Canada or Latin America. So to play well and kind of ride off that Walker Cup and bypass so many steps, that was, a huge blessing, because making it to the PGA Tour is very difficult. They've opened up a kind of a couple different avenues now with like PGA Tour U and some other things, but that still doesn't make it easy. You have to play well and you have to play good golf to get out there. So crazy to think back on it, but that was a fun ride.
For some reason, the thing I remember too, I remember when you were in, I think it was Vegas, where they had you doing some publicity stunt in town, and you made a hole-in-one.
Oh, that was DC.
DC.
I remember that.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Some sake we brought back from Japan.
Cheers.
Very well.
Very good. It was one of my sponsors for a long time was Red Bull, and we did some fun stuff. Obviously, it was a perfect crossover for me with my motorsport background and being involved in action sports. But we did some fun stuff. That was a cool one, because I think they did like I don't know if it was, they hid golf balls. There was maybe like 25 or 30, I can't remember the number. They were all numbered, and whoever found them, that was their ball. And I wish I remember what the prize was. I might have been money, but if I made a hole-in-one, someone got something. And the hardest thing about that shot, I mean, it wasn't tough, but you're not on a golf course. It was maybe like 120 yards or something, but I couldn't see the hole, because it was between buildings and then down a set of stairs, and then they had a synthetic green built,
right?
And all I could see above the stairs was the flag, which that's enough, you know where to go, but I couldn't, my depth perception of like seeing where balls landed. So I had to ask this guy who does some announcing, who was with me, Chick Hernandez. I'd have to ask him. I was like, hey man, can you have them tell you where that landed? So I had a reference. But I made the one, it spun back and went in, but I think I also flew one in the hole that came out.
What was it, 52 degree?
I think I was hitting 52. That was before the U.S. Open at Congressional.
Yeah.
It was fun. That's one of the things. You play well, you end up with some partners and cool people to be around. Obviously, it means more time and work that you have to do, but there's times where you get to do some cool random stuff, and maybe not who knows, could have been good prep for USM. I don't know, but we had fun.
Sure. Yeah.
What's another cool experience from some sponsors that you've went through?
I think some of the kind of the fun ones for me have been doing like some of the commercials. As you know, like being with Grayson and stuff, you do photo shoots and kind of you go through the motions, take pictures. They can be long days, and it's you see a picture in a catalog or whatever it may be. And there could be some cool locations and different stuff, but at least with commercials, what I kind of thought was cool is you could see like a finished living product. Now there were plenty of times I felt like a complete idiot, because one, I'm not an actor. I never tried to act. But it's to go from a kid wanting to play on the PGA Tour to then be out there and then seeing yourself like be on commercials and
on TV
with sponsors and stuff. You're like, yeah, this is pretty cool.
That's awesome.
And then unfortunately, you have to deal with the haters along the way too.
Of course.
They give you a hard time, like, oh, you're spending too much time doing that. It's like, kind of comes with the territory. So, yeah, there's everyone who would be in that position would be doing the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of that, like your brand as yourself, like so many people talk about it, like you've been relevant for so long in the professional world. And definitely not where I was going with that. But yeah, like in the world of sports, obviously. But was there anything, I think I know the answer to this, but was there anything that like growing up, you're like, oh, I think because I'm going to do my hair this way, I'm going to get more like views, or now it would be Instagram likes, or potential sponsors, or was it just like you being you and it just happened?
No, it was 100% just me being me. I remember going back to Cannon Cup, AJGA, and you guys remember like the ice spike gel?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, I remember the picture too.
Yeah, like I was doing stuff there to try and make money. We're junior golfers. We're not getting paid.
Right.
But being from California, I was on the West team, and then the West was blue and the East was red. It was just U.S. juniors, East versus West. I don't know why or where I got the idea, but I was like, blue ice gel. And if I had long hair at the time, I was like, I am going to do blue Liberty spikes. And I think I had 3 spikes. And yeah, that was just me being me.
Yeah, we got to find that picture.
Yeah, it's around. I think I had maybe like I don't know if I had like a headband or armbands, but yeah, just messing around, having fun.
Yeah.
And colors and stuff, obviously orange coming from Oklahoma State, growing up in action sports and with motocross, it wasn't like guys wore plain gear. Like guys wore colorful gear, had cool painted helmets. Like Troy Lee is a good friend of mine, and we've been doing some stuff together on the golf side now. But like I always wore Troy's gear and his helmets. And I mean, Troy's big in helmets for anything motorsport. Yeah. In any sort of racing or whatever. And that was part of kind of how you showed a little bit of your personality. Like you might have something, painted in there other than having like your name on the back. And guys in moto, they have typically something like on their butt, they'll have a butt patch, whether it's their nickname or something. And it's just a fun way of kind of, like I said, showing your personality, being you, and differentiating between other riders.
Yeah.
So that was me just kind of bringing that over to the golf side.
The perfect concoction for marketing.
It worked. It wasn't like, I think one thing I learned, I think over the years in a way, is like the younger generation or like kids, people always ask like, why do the kids like you and stuff? And I'm never trying to like build myself up or anything. It's like, I feel like I was just genuine, and that's who I was. I wasn't trying to do anything or anyone I wasn't. I was just being me and having fun. And I feel like kids gravitate towards that, and they can see through people really easily. So to have that following and having kids look up to me is like the biggest compliment you can get.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the only ways I could kind of justify, hey, this is me being me, because they think I'm cool.
Yeah, yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, having kids love you, it's the best.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, I guess we can jump forward a few years now to talk about Maya, your 2-year-old.
Yeah.
How's she doing?
She's great. We had dinner earlier. Got her down. As you know, it's the best. Oklahoma State and the management of things help prepare for the steps along the way. Because as I said, your plate just keeps getting fuller and fuller with more and more stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Just it keeps getting better and more fun every day, every week as they grow and change, and just seeing her develop and start to talk a bit more.
So cool.
There's seeing her get excited, or even when she's like, well, one, she gets excited to see me. That great. I like that. But it's like when you see her get excited to see other people, and it's super fun. It definitely helps put things into perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like both of us and you, we've all had great perspective on life, but it just kind of adds a whole another level.
For sure. Would you say it's helped your golf game at all, having a child?
Yeah.
And
people would probably argue that, but because I struggled the last few years, but none of that was because of her. I do think, I talked about the perspective side of it. I've always had great perspective, and then just having her in our lives, plus having the struggles I had, that combined, just it makes it so much more free.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people asked about those last few years, like not afraid to fail. I've been there, but now I have a reason. Like, obviously I have my wife Allison, but I have Maya, and hopefully we'll have another. Ultimately, we want to have 2 kids, but
Nice.
Like, that's our main priority.
Mm-hmm.
Golf is there, but if all that were to go away, like, we have family and the people around us.
Yeah, that's the ultimate perspective right there. Like life and family.
Yeah,
it's so beautiful.
I mean, I want to be able to play golf forever.
Yeah,
but that's not the main thing.
You're right. Definitely.
What do you look back at that time? You just mentioned going through kind of some harder times, over the last couple of years. Was there an area of your game you think that was driving that, or was it things off the golf course, or what do you look back at that now, kind of on the other side of that hump, obviously? What do you think was really driving that time?
Well, I mean, off the course, everything was great, or as great as things can be. Nothing's ever perfect.
Yeah.
But, marriage and personal life, all that was great. It was tough because it was like the only thing that was missing was playing halfway decent. And I think, obviously, I was working on swing stuff, and you work on stuff to ultimately be better. No one's making changes to get worse, and I think a lot of people lose sight of that. It's like, well, why are you doing this? It's like, I'm trying.
I'm trying to get worse, guys.
Yeah, I just wanted to ride the pine for a few years. One of the biggest things, because I had points in there where I hit it decent enough to play well.
Yeah.
Putting was something that I was always able to rely on. I was always a good putter, and over those few years, I never putted well. And even, early in my career, if I had, below average, ball striking weeks and I putted well, I was in contention. And so I just never had that to kind of help me out. So that just put more pressure on ball striking and, tee to green stuff. So it was nice to finally see my ball striking start getting better, take some stress off of putting, and then everything started to kind of come back. So it was never like it was one specific thing, because all the stuff wasn't great for those few years. But like I said, usually if you have one thing that you can kind of lean on, it helps pull you along.
Sure.
I didn't have one of those on the course.
Mm. Putting for you is, like you said, it's always been such a strength. You always had such a beautiful natural flow to your arc, but how has your perspective changed on putting over the years? You've made changes in putters in general, but has your perspective on how to putt or reading, has anything changed over the years?
Yeah, I try and adapt and continue to experiment and try things. I feel like I've always been a good green reader. But there's, I mean, as you guys know, there's sometimes there's greens that you see better than others. Sometimes you're like just completely lost. You're like, I did not see that. But no, I think just being open to experimenting, not getting lost down a rabbit hole, but you have your fundamentals or the things that you've always done. But I've used like some aim point here and there just to help bring things in on, whether it's reads to make sure that I'm at least in the right general area. And a lot of that is ultimately just to give you more, self or that mental belief and confidence. Because if you go into a putt and are questioning anything in it, it's not going to work. I don't care if you have the right read, like you have to believe it. And a lot of those days where you're going out and making a lot of putts, obviously you see one or two go in and you just know that you read it right and you see the ball going in. I wish there was a way to duplicate that to where you just did that every day. But it doesn't happen. So yeah, I think having those basics or fundamentals that you kind of always do, but being open to some little things to kind of help keep it fun and fresh.
Sure.
Speaking of like knowing when a putt's going to go in, I'm sure you've had a million times where it's like you walk up to it, you don't even read it yet, and you're like, oh, this 20-footer's it's in the hole. Like before you even get up or mark the ball. Like, can you explain in your best way, like what that feeling is, how you think it works universally, like mentally, energetically? Like, is there some way that you can explain it? Because I know that I haven't. I've had it happen a million times, but like, I want to hear your perspective on it.
Yeah, it's tough.
Is it will? Is it?
There's definitely some will in there. I mean, obviously it's so mental because like it talks about as far as having that belief and that confidence, like knowing I'm going to make this. But it's like the visualization and being able to actually see it. And it's kind of like you've already made it before you've hit it.
Right.
And like you said, it's not something that's just easily like done. There's days where you're not even sure how you're gonna two putt from where you're at, and then there's others where it looks like you're putting to a trash can.
Yeah.
So it's weird. I don't have an explanation. It sounds like you don't necessarily have an explanation for it. But a lot of it comes down to having that confidence and belief when you're about to hit it. So whatever gets you to that point. I mean, for me, like going back to when I won Detroit earlier this year, I got to see a pretty good line from Adam hitting his putt. I knew what I needed to do. I knew what the putt was going to do. Obviously, we're putting on Poe late in the day, so some of it is a little bit out of like what you can control. But it's like, okay, if I hit it right there, like it's got a pretty damn good chance to go in. So the last thing for me over that was like, just make a good stroke, like give it a chance. And so, yeah, it's funny how different putts work. I mean, I remember I made a nice putt it was for par on the last hole to have a match at the President's Cup in Australia. I was playing alternate shot with Gary Woodland, and he hit one a little hard and left me like 8 feet down the hill. He obviously felt bad, but I don't know. It was just one of those ones, like I knew what it was going to do, and it was literally like, all right, just take the putter back, start it, hit it in the middle of the face. Like,
It's in.
Yeah, it's fun when it's like that, because the last few years it was like, all right, I'll just hit it and see what happens.
Yeah.
Probably not going to go in.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Like, I guess the only way that I can kind of explain it is like in all of my studies in the last few years, which have been crazy and very outside of golf, it's like we as human beings are energetic and electrical, right? So like we have an aura around us, and when we have that feeling of will or belief that you keep reiterating, like I feel like that aura grows around you, and maybe it engulfs your ball in the hole, and like there is no other outcome. Like it is what it is, and it's going to happen. And like I always go back to this one putt that I had at Puerto Rico at the college event that we went to play, and I was playing like shit on the front nine, and it was like 3 over through 8, and Coach McGraw was walking with me, and he left me because I was playing so bad, and he's like, I'm gonna go help someone else, maybe you can just do your own
Change
thing.
the mojo.
Yeah. And so I birdied like the next 7, and then he comes back on the 18th hole, and I have like a 60-footer, and he's like, how you doing? I was like, well, I'm doing a little better now, but I'm gonna make this one. Watch this. And it, like, I didn't even read the putt. It just kind of huge, like the greens were shit too. Yeah. Like they're, I don't know. It's weird, and it's just cool that that we can experience things like that. And I'm sure that that's happened to you in many different parts of your life as well. What's been something that has helped you outside of golf, for golf, or even just for life? Like, is there something that you do for a daily routine, or like meditation or breath work or recovery or eating a certain way that like really makes you feel like your best self?
Well, it's not eating a certain way because I like to enjoy. I mean, one thing I do really like that I still should do more of is cold plunge. I feel like there's so many benefits from it, and I wish I could basically just take mine everywhere with me. I mean, I know there's obviously portable ones and stuff like that, but just as far as like having it set up at all times, ready. Portable ones takes time and effort, but I have one at the house. Like first thing in the morning, hopping in, being able to do it for recovery, whether it's later in the day. Yeah, like I said, I should do it more. I need to do it more, but I feel like that's one thing that helps both physically and mentally.
Just like turns your brain on, I feel like.
Bro, it's crazy. It turns something on.
We did it the other night over at Transitions Flow Studio on US 1 and Donald Ross. It's a good spot.
Yeah,
little sauna.
I've got to renew cold and hot at the house if you need it.
Nice.
Yep.
Maybe we'll pay a membership and we can come over.
I'll just give you a garage door opener and go right in.
Perfect. Do you still have the GTR?
I sold the GTR, but I have, well, what would be another version of it, but I have an R34.
Oh, sick.
You've seen that one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Was that the Fast and Furious car?
Yeah, R34.
Right.
Right-hand drive.
Yeah, I remember when you got that. Yeah.
Unfortunately, she's been hanging at the shop for a little bit, waiting for a motor to come in from Japan. But yeah, that's my baby.
What are you putting in it?
I've got a built HKS motor coming over from them in Japan. Actually, motor showed up, but there was something loose, so they had to send it back.
Oh, done.
Yeah, I think the motor it'll be capable of making 1200 wheel. I'm not going to run it there.
Cool.
I like to have things that I can drive and I don't have to worry about it too much. So probably run it around 7 or 8-ish.
Nice.
But obviously, as you know, in your world, having something that is capable of here and running in here, it's a lot safer on maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Especially on these roads around here, it's perfect. It's like a track everywhere. Especially coming from Costa Rica, where it's dirt roads and potholes and
yeah, that's a huge difference. Jupiter, I remember the first time we came down here, we're driving. My pop and I are drive around A1A and US1, and we kind of looked at each other like, this place is a drag strip.
Yeah.
Every road's dead straight and perfect.
Yeah, I don't mess around much on the roads.
Yeah.
Although I won't track that car, but just I enjoy driving. Growing up, like riding, racing dirt bikes, being able to drive stick and hear the car, and you don't necessarily have to go fast, but maybe step on it here or there just to remember it's there. And, gets the blood flowing a little bit.
Is that one of the kind of your biggest passions and most fun things you look forward to off the golf course now?
Yeah, I mean, other than obviously being with Maya and Allison, yes. I mean, I wish I could still throw. I mean, I can go ride, but it's not worth the risk. But yeah, I mean, at some point, I'd love to do some more, time on the track, and because I feel like at least that there's other racing options that are, safer than riding, that at least kind of get the adrenaline going and give you that kind of feel of what it would be like when you are riding. But like I said, at least, in a car, on a track, on a prep surface, you can still get hurt. Things can go wrong, but it's a lot more manageable.
Yeah. I was thinking back as we were talking about the Nissan, and a funny memory of mine with you. I think it was our first time going to dinner together. I actually had my first ever shot that I'd ever taken.
No way.
Yes. Yeah, it was at the Woods.
Yeah.
And the restaurant had just opened, and we all took a shot together. And I don't think you knew it at the time, but I was sitting there kind of looking around like, am I allowed to do this? And, it all went pretty clean, and I probably was choking underneath my chest somewhere, but found a way to sneak it down and keep going. But completely contrarily to that, earlier we were talking about, just your presence and your brand and how much of an impact you've had on children, right? And how much pride you've taken in that throughout your career and as a person. And before we kind of went off topic there, I was thinking back to Arnold Palmer and, how much you've always relayed his impact on you as a person and also in your career. What were, some of the first memories you have with him personally, or some of the anecdotes he left you?
Yeah, he's obviously someone I've always looked up to, enjoyed spending time with him. Probably first time I won a AJGA event at Bay Hill, obviously his home. So it was around him a little bit there, but wasn't until probably a couple times up at Sunny Hannah, which isn't far from where he grew up. But his grandson, Sam, and I weren't far off on age and played some amateur golf and professional golf against each other. So that was kind of the start of it. And then, once I was playing professionally, would always see him at Bay Hill. Probably one of my coolest memories with him is played in the same group with him at Seminole in the pro member.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. It was, he was obviously getting older. I can't remember if this was might have been 2012. So he rode around in a cart, probably it was one of maybe 3 or 4 carts on property.
Yeah.
So there's no carts there.
Yeah.
I still remember there was a shot he hit, number 11, the par 4 kind of goes straight out and then up to the green. And there's a bunker in the middle of that hill. It's 40-ish yards short of the green. And we hit it in there in 2. And he just kind of walks in there. I don't know what club he had, some sort of wedge, and just kind of hits this perfect 60-yard bunker shot up in the middle of the green. I'm just still got it. No, that was just being able to cruise around, play 18 with him, at Seminole.
Yeah.
It's for down here, that's pretty special. Yeah, I mean, there's not many other places, you'd say being able to play with Arnold and cruise around. I mean, you'd obviously throw Augusta in there. Bay Hill being his home would be cool. But yeah, that kind of topped it for me. And I mean, kind of to bring it all full circle, being able to fly up to his memorial service after he passed. And yeah, he was a special man, obviously huge impact and still has as big, if not bigger now.
What's something he said to you that was super memorable?
I think a lot of times for me, it wasn't so much like asking or like when I talked to people directly, but it was more observing and, you know, watching what he did and how he treated people. And I think something that was special, which has kind of, you don't see as much nowadays, and something that I could do significantly better at, but him writing his notes to people.
Yes.
Because obviously nowadays you can send someone a text and stuff like that. The point still gets across. It's different. So yeah, there's just a lot of stuff that I took from him just from observing and watching.
That's a great point, man. Like, I have a few mentors in my life that are just like, get your own letterhead and send thank you notes. Like, you go over to someone's house, write a note, like send it to their mail address, ask their address, because it's like no one does that anymore, and it's such an impact.
It's kind of a lost art.
Yeah, it's like, oh damn, like wow, they had the thought and took the time to say thank you, and you're right, it's very important. And one of the things that he was huge on, of teaching all the pros this, is to make your signature legible. He had one of the best signatures in the game, in all of sports. I was lucky enough to have a chat with him at the Palmer Cup at Cherry Hills, and we just talked about flying the whole time, because I was, at the time, I didn't have my license, but he was telling me stories about how he had the fastest jet, and when he was retiring, like flew across the U.S. from west to east and like made a land speed record, and is insane.
Yeah, I remember, because hearing the story, it was like he got to the first tower and they're basically like, yep, you're cleared.
Yeah, exactly. Every center, like when you're going cross country for long distance, you don't talk to, it's like ATC, like the towers, you talk to like the centers, and like maybe I think it's like Dallas Center or Atlanta Center or things like that, and they're just like, yep, Mr. Palmer, congratulations, have a great flight, like you're cleared, no speed restrictions. It's like, damn, that's so sick. I want that someday, man.
Oh, I think, so going off Arnold there, obviously some really cool and special memories. One of the hardest things I've ever had to do is I had to, off scheduling and stuff, I had to skip Bay Hill one year. And so I decided to drive up and have lunch with him and tell him in person. And it felt like I was breaking up with, it wasn't even a girlfriend. It was beyond that. That was hard.
It's a nice gesture.
It was, one, to be able to, go and have lunch and hang with him, but obviously to be like, hey man, I have bad news. But at least we got to spend the time with him, and I know he at least, thought it was, pretty cool that I made the gesture of at least going up there. But still, yeah, I'd say that's probably one of the hardest things I've had to do in my life.
Wow. Why couldn't you play?
It was scheduling. I can't remember why exactly, and how it fell, but it was something with how much I was playing.
Yeah.
Just couldn't play that week.
Yeah, I feel you.
If it was like a breakup, did you hint at it going into it? Was this just thrown out there? Was there any, I'm being funny more than anything.
No. Didn't necessarily hint at it too much.
Yeah, right.
He might have rescinded the lunch date offer.
Yeah.
Would you say you're a spiritual person?
Yeah, to an extent, not like overbearing or where I'm gonna like throw it on other people type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Like religious or like curious about life or beyond life?
I think it's a combo. Grew up Catholic, and then I have a lot of close friends that are pastors, or and very obviously religious in that way. And yeah, I've always been Christian Catholic, but I just feel like it's so interesting just learning about everything, you know, whether it's people that, you know, believe in one thing or another, or, you know, why we're here or how we're here, to spending time around like Jimmy Walker, who, you know, does a lot of astrophotography.
Right.
And, you know, you think about some of these things he's taking pictures of that are billions of light years away, or all of that. But thinking of like what's close and it's a million, you know, a few million light years away, it's like, it's hard to wrap your head around it, because it's just crazy.
Yeah. It's like, what is life? What are we doing here on this planet? Like,
but there's people that think it's flat, and it's crazy. There's just so much out there and so much information, and, you know, what is, you know, truly factual and what's not. And when you start thinking about like how small we really are in the grand scheme of things, it kind of freaks you out if you start like going down that hole a little bit.
Yeah, I've experienced that.
Yeah, you're like,
I became friends with Morgan over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And
like,
Danny, our producer back here.
Yeah, but just when you like breaking up like Jimmy with the astrophotography stuff, and like thinking of some of the pictures he's taken and like how far that really is away, it like you can't fathom that distance.
Yeah.
And how many more things there are out there.
Yeah.
And how small we are in the galaxy or the universe. And
it's, there's no way to, like, you're talking in light years, which we're worried. I've been alive for 35 years. Like, I'm working in yards, and it's a
yards
cup out.
and
It's
years.
a cup out right.
Yeah.
35 years is like that.
Do you believe in aliens?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like with how, when you talk about how big everything is, or like how small we are, like you would think there'd have to be something out there.
Yep.
But if it's that far away, like, we'll never know.
I don't know.
Or do we know already, and
that's the other side of it.
We're not educated on it. Or there's,
I think some of it is like a little bit of the not knowing is probably for everyone's best. Like,
that's the way it's been designed, I think, for sure. I mean, how comfortable is it living in Jupiter, Florida, and having everything within 2 miles? And, you know, like, it's easy.
We've got our little bubble.
Yep.
You know, we'll stay in our bubble. I mean, I can't just when you think about like our little spot and then what's going on in the world today, like, why can't everyone just have their little bubble, like,
and live peacefully?
Just enjoy, help other people out around you. But I guess that's part of like kind of how we are, is you kind of always look at the glass half full. I mean, something you've had to do over the last 10 plus years with what you've dealt with, like, if not, you know, who knows where you'd be right now. And then, you know, treating other people how you want to be treated.
Exactly.
Taking care of the people around you. Like, there's pretty simple things that a lot of us are taught growing up. Unfortunately, not enough of us, obviously, because of all this stuff going on. But it's like, have your bubble, enjoy it, and take care of those people, and it'll all be okay.
I agree.
It's obviously a lot harder than that.
Yeah, let's keep it simple, right? Speaking of questioning life and looking at the stars and feeling insignificant or significant at times, is there a thing that you feel like you're here for?
There's times where I feel like yes and no, because it's like sometimes you feel like you're this one person and you really don't have, you know, that big of an impact on the grand scheme of things. But at the end of the day, if you look at it as, if I'm able to help this one person and that makes their life better, or they see it a certain way, and then you look at like that trickle and that like tree effect, then you have the potential of reaching, who knows how many people. So I think you can look at it both ways. I've always liked to look at it as like having an influence and that spreading from there.
Like pay it forward.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, it's even as simple though as just like I loved what you said about how it wasn't something that Mr. Palmer said to you. It was more observing him, and I've thought about that a lot. And just specifically golf, I always tried to. I'm not just saying this for the moment, but like I tried to embody the way you carried yourself walking between shots and how you reacted to a bad shot versus a good shot. You've always been somewhat stoic, and very
externally.
Yeah, I'm sure, well, but I think but really that has a great impact on how you are internally too. I've never really watched you overreact negatively, or that crazy positively either.
It's
kind of a way like just something natural for you, or
a little bit. I mean, so a lot of that comes from my parents and grandparents, and not like not throwing clubs or not throwing a tantrum, and just it's not necessarily remaining calm type of thing, and everyone deals with those situations differently. Like I've never necessarily been someone that needs to like let out their frustration. There's some people that do, and that's just how they operate and how they tick and how they move on. But I'm also someone, kind of a big believer on like not wasting energy. So especially when it comes down to playing or being in the moment and in contention, like a lot of times it's maybe not your first week out and you only have a certain amount of energy to give, and come to the last few holes, you want to make sure you have as much in the tank as possible.
Speaking of coming into contention, do you have any advice for people coming into contention that could be feeling the nerves? And obviously that's what we practice for, right? And to feel those nerves put pressure in practice for us, but like there's nothing like being in contention and having that chance to win. What's been your key?
Well, I mean, I feel like that changes as far as like when you're there more, it starts to feel more comfortable. You get used to it. Early on, had to learn, but I felt like feeling like I went a little bit slower through the process, whether it was walking or going through my pre-shot routine, because you kind of, without knowing, you start to do things faster. I think that's, for the most part, everyone in a way, and how people operate under pressure or different, out of the norm situations. And then from there, I feel like, as far as golf related or golf specific, is just do what you do best. If there's a certain shot, if it's, I don't cut the ball or I don't draw the ball, like don't do anything different. Don't try and do anything. And it's obviously a lot easier said than done. Like, you've been in contention. I mean, you've played golf at a high enough level to be there and know, like, it's not that easy, but keep it simple. Like I said, it's a lot easier said than done.
For sure. Good advice though. Good advice. 2 questions back to back. What are you most grateful for?
Well, I guess it'd be 2, but family and friends, but my bubble.
And it takes work to make that.
Oh yeah.
Bubble.
Well, luckily born into a good bubble, but then you create, what your bubble is with that, your friends, whether it's the two of you. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to spend a bunch of time together over the last few years, but
Well, we have kids now.
and someone spends time in Costa Rica. But other than that,
Yeah.
but no, that'd be for me is just the, that's something we'll always have. Like if everything else, goes away, we always have that.
Mm-hmm. And what are you most excited for going forward?
I'd like to say a major next year. That'd be on the current, but after that, I mean, like I said, having a second kid and just having a family, and I mean, Maya's 2 now, and yeah, it's just gonna be a fun ride watching her and hopefully a +1, grow up, and like that's our priority now. So yeah, some accomplishments in golf, that would be amazing, and obviously something I continue to push for and work for. But yeah, it really all comes down to family and friends. So yeah, the family is the future.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing, man, to listen to your drive still in golf too. I mean, just to have already had the success you've had on and off the golf course, whether it's been, financially or just in results itself. I mean, I think it speaks to just your love for the game and how driven you are. I mean, what is it really, that kind of elusive major that keeps you going more than anything else and wanting to keep working hard and putting yourself out there in contention?
Not necessarily. I mean, I'd obviously love to win a major, but if I do or don't, it doesn't necessarily change my life.
Yeah.
It'll change it on the golf or history or that side of things, but personally and friends and family, that doesn't change it. So for me, I mean, golf, it's always been, outside of friends and family, my number one, as far as whether you want to call it a hobby or job or what I love to do. Whether I'm playing on tour or competing in majors, like I'm still going to be playing golf. Like I love to play. I love the kind of personal battles and always trying to be better. So yeah, like just whether that's getting ready to go play a major or, down the road, is it Champions Tour or having a group of buddies and going to a hoopy and trying to beat each other's brains in, like it's fun. So it's more just the competition and with your friends and people you're going up against, but also personally trying to push yourself.
Is there a hurdle that like if you get past, you're like, all right, I'm golden. I can really take this next step in golf kind of thing. It doesn't have to be like a result oriented thing, but just whatever that.
Well, if I hit it like 330 dead straight every time and made everything inside 10 feet, should be good.
Great answer.
No, I mean, there's so many things you can do and try and peak for those weeks. And there's no perfect way in doing it. There's times you feel amazing going in and you play like shit. And there's others where you've played poorly for a few weeks, have low expectations, and you're in contention and have a chance. So some of that is how you kind of mentally grind through it. One, when you are in a good spot, not getting like kind of overconfident or ahead of yourself. But in those others, going back to like playing in tough conditions and qualifying at school, like you just have to find a way. Like how do you grind through it? And you're gonna have both of those situations. I mean, no one's ever been as good at it as Tiger, and say necessarily peaking for those weeks. Jack was pretty good at it too. He did all right. No, I don't think there's one thing specifically. I think the more times you put yourself there, that's one of the keys. So you just continue to feel more and more comfortable. And shoot, I think Jack, I can't remember the exact number, but he had more runner-ups than he did
Right.
wins.
Yeah, 19.
Yeah, we had him on the pod a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. So, yeah, to get those wins, it's obviously he had a chance to have a lot more, but you have to put yourself in that position. It's not like you get there and it just happens.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Good answer.
Yeah.
You want to ask the last one?
Oh, we'll get there. I'm almost there, but I'm not letting you guys off the hook quite yet because not only did you guys play in school together, but you lived together for a couple of years too.
Yes, I forgot about that point.
And I'm not saying you need to bring any explicit stories to the table, but you got to at least bring me one from your time living together that comes to mind.
Well, we lived with Cameron Tringali.
Yeah,
and Scott,
which is a pretty wild third ball.
Well, so the way it all started. So Cam and I were at Q School in 2009.
I love Cameron.
Both got our cards. Both from California. We're both same agency, but I got a condo out in Vegas because Nevada being the closest state to California, no state income tax. Yeah. And I didn't know Cam that well. I mean, we had played some golf growing up against each other. He's a year older than me, but it's like, hey, I've got an extra room. You want to split and, room together. And so we lived in Vegas for a year. I played well, so I was in a good spot to kind of move forward with getting a house and, kind of setting up residency somewhere, and, found out about Jupiter and kind of decided to find a spot down here. Ended up getting a house that was end of 2010, and told Cam in the off season, like, hey man, I got a 4-bedroom house. If you want, maybe check out Florida, and if you want, you got a room. So come the Florida swing, which would have been kind of March area, he came down, liked it enough, so he moved in. So I think we lived together for about 6 years in total. But in that, Hoff was coming out turning pro. He came through for, 2 years ish, 1 year and a half.
Yeah, a good 2, I think. Yeah,
2 years. Scott Langley lived with us for 6 months. So at that point, we had a pretty strong foursome. I think Deepaw lived there for maybe a short period.
Right. Yeah, we were up in the bunkhouse upstairs.
Yeah, the 2 rooms upstairs.
Cameron had like the matching master bedroom over on the other side of the wing. So it was awesome. Yeah.
No, so it was, I mean, I had that house for, I want to say 6 or 7 years or so.
Yeah. It was a bachelor pad.
Yeah.
I remember after the players going there and drinking beer out of the trophy with me.
Oh, yeah.
Also one of my first beers, too.
That's awesome.
No, it was a great spot to kind of set up to start out. We were on the water, so jet skis or taking the paddle boards out.
Jet skis.
Yeah, we had plenty of fun on the jet skis.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Which part?
I wrecked one of them.
Really?
Yeah.
How's that?
It actually, I swear to God, it wasn't my fault. Like,
Sure.
Yeah.
That's everybody's
We were
last
cruising.
words.
I was cruising alone, and the throttle got stuck somehow, and I ran into the dock. And thankfully,
Luckily, he was okay.
yeah, thankfully,
Right.
my head was not decapitated. But
I could care less about the jet ski.
Yeah.
Like, we can replace that.
Yeah.
There's no replacing Hoff.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
oh,
That's
man.
for sure.
I remember we had a mat, and we would like hit out of the sliding doors.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was a good little setup.
Fishing. Oh, that was a point I was gonna bring up.
Yeah.
How about you love fishing?
Yep. Yeah, that was something else. So growing up, when I talked about my grandpa was the one that introduced me to golf.
Mm-hmm.
So he used to pick me up from like preschool and kindergarten, grade school, every Wednesday. And so we would switch off. We'd go golfing one week and then go fishing the next. So that was something that we always did. So I don't get to fish much now, especially having a kid. So that's something, I mean, having a great setup, being able to fish out back. If I get a, free 30 minutes or hour where I don't have anything on the schedule, being able to just go throw a line out back and have some fun.
Yeah, cool.
That's a big part of kind of whether I have music playing on the phone or not, just kind of zoning out and just getting away from everything.
What's your best catch you ever had?
I don't necessarily, I mean, I don't do a bunch of like, deep sea fishing. I've caught marlin and tuna and different stuff, some sailfish out here. The stuff that's most fun is just snook and tarpon off the dock, catching them on, lighter tackle and trying to keep them from tying you up and breaking you off on the pylons. Yeah, plenty of times where I've had to jump off the dock or try and, pull them away and not break them off. That's where it's fun.
Yeah.
And off the dock sometimes can sight fish them. And
You ever see tarpon rolling out there?
oh yeah,
Sick. Wow.
yeah, we have. I mean, there's a lot. Most of them roll just out past the dock, kind of in the channel there. Most of the tarpon that I'll catch, kind of close to the dock or around there, probably in like the 10 to 20 pound range. Fun ones.
Yeah.
I was fishing something super light tackle for tarpon at one time. I think it was like maybe 15-pound braid on a 2500, and I had saw like a 50-pound tarpon come up on it. I was like, yeah, it's not gonna work. But at least I was like, yeah, it's cool to see you.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Man, their mouths are insane. My dad and I grew up fly fishing for them in the Keys. So those are amazing fish a lot of fun. And it's great because it's like pretty much mandatory catch and release because you can't eat them.
Yeah. No, I mean, I wish I could throw the fly a little bit more out back. I have a couple 8-weights at the house.
Nice.
Still very much on the beginner side of it, but and that's the thing. Like if I'm fishing out back, everything's I'm throwing swim baits and stuff. I'm not throw it out with a bobber and sit and wait. Like
yeah, no chance.
I'm fishing. I want to trick you, and I want this to be a fair fight. But yeah, I wish we get some more time with the fly. I think there's something to that because I like being able to cast and work it and actually fish.
Yeah.
And I think fly fishing is kind of like the raw form of that.
The ultimate challenge of fishing, sight fishing too. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, before Morgan let you wrap things up, I got 2 questions for you before then. The first would be, if someone was looking to find their purpose or passion, what would your advice be for them?
It's like, what do you enjoy or what do you have fun doing? That sometimes that can be tough. But I guess for me, like outside of golf, I love being able to help people. I love people leaving better than they were, whether it was, golf related, short game or putting or whatever, or just being able to help someone, with something normal in their day, whatever it may be. That's enjoyable and fun for me. Obviously I love golf. It's most of the time it's enjoyable. But I think that's, it's hard, but just, you have to find something that you enjoy, and you don't necessarily have to love it. But if, when we go back to talking about like some of those kids in junior golf or like parents pushing them, it's just really not going to last. Like it personally, you have to enjoy what you're doing for it to last. So you can make something work for the time being and
Sure.
maybe get by. And if that's something to ultimately set you up financially to do something that you enjoy and love, then perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what makes golf so special. Is it's truly the game of life. I mean, there are so many parallels to how we act on a golf course directly correlating back to how we act in life.
Well, and I mean, yeah, just thinking of even when people aren't necessarily that good at golf or in junior golf or whatever, it's like just keep playing. Like, even if you're not going to make it professionally, there's so much you can do with golf. One, you can play it forever, but the amount of business that gets done on golf courses, and then like you said, you can get a good read on people on how they are out on a golf course, you know, how they react to certain situations and stuff. So yeah, there's a handful of different applications for the game of golf.
For sure.
So true.
It's like an honor system for the most part.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to see the true character that whatever that person is come out on the golf course, whether they're kicking it out of the shitty lie or giving them a 4-footer. You'll see the true character come out.
Oh yeah, totally. And lastly, and we're gonna have a round 2 of this interview in 15 years and laugh about how much we didn't predict the right things that came together in life. But what maybe more near term, when someone leaves an interaction with you, what would you like them to think about Rickie Fowler? What would your impression, of yourself want to be?
Well, I guess in a way, I guess it'd be kind of, I'm not trying to like make myself sound cool or better or anything, but like I would assume that if they're around me, they probably know who I am or what I do. I would say ultimately if they left either saying that I'm better than what they've heard, I guess it'd be that, like, which luckily I've heard that before, which is, probably one of the best compliments you can get is, I've heard you're a nice guy and all this, but like, you're a lot cooler than I thought you would be.
Sure.
So I think, kind of always trying to be better.
Love it.
Amazing. Well, we appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
And chatting, and this feels like it went by in a split second. Our podcast is called I Can Fly because of many reasons. But the exciting part of the interview for us is what we get out of this question from our guests of what does I Can Fly feel like to you when you say it? Is there a time in your life where you were like, damn, I feel like I'm flying right now?
I mean, for me, it'd be in the air on a dirt bike. I mean, really, to me, there's no better feeling. Whether it's, a big jump on a track or being out, free riding in the desert. And it's like that split second of where you're just like weightless in the air. And you're just away from everyone. That's like your like freedom, kind of like free spot.
That split second, that feels like it can last a lifetime.
It feels a lot longer than it is, but it's literally, so you just keep going, hitting the jump over and over so you can keep reliving it.
It's like life.
But that's for me is like that little spot. Being in the air on a dirt bike.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, bro. It's great to talk to you, and hey, again, let's keep hanging more.
Yeah, we got to go tee it up now.
Yeah. No.
Go to that whoopee comment made me think like we got to get a group together.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
We actually, one of the probably best trips we did early quarantine. It was myself, JT, Jordan, Gary, Kiz, and Duff.
I heard you guys went up there.
We went and did 3 days, 2 nights. Like stuff like that. That's if professional golf was off the table, being able to get 4, 6, 8, 12 group of guys together, and girls too. My wife probably would like to work at it a little bit more to where she can get to where she can have more fun and play, because she gets a little irritated. She's used to watching like myself and JT play, so her expectations are a little high, but just having those trips to where you can all just go have fun, drink, not drink, have good food, just being around and enjoying everyone being together.
Yeah, it's nothing like it.
Yeah.
It's the best. No, well, thank you very much, man. I mean, if I can answer the second question I asked personally, I think you make people feel special when you're present, and I'm very, very grateful to call you a friend and to look up to you as a role model too. And I think the biggest thing I take away from today is keep being you.
I'll try. I'll see what I
Amen.
can do. Thanks, man.